Hey everybody, and welcome to The Year Was, a podcast all about today. I'm your host, Michael Montalvo, and together we take the history train back in time once again to discover what makes today truly unique. For the next few minutes, we continue to gather random nuggets of trivia to make you sound smart, or just drop that little fact that makes others stop and say, hey, who invited you? Like, seriously, why are you here? On this episode, we examine the events that occurred today, May 15th. I thought we would start the episode today talking about something that I actually have a lot of interest in, and that's the world of art. The year was 1863, and on this day, by the command of Napoleon III, the Salon de Refuses, an exhibition for artists whose work was refused by the official Salon selection, was held. In 1863, the official Salon jury had rejected so many paintings that artists rose in protest. Pieces were rejected because organizers wanted a polished, finished look to the artwork with no visible brushstrokes and expected idealized versions of art. Artwork was so rigidly judged that of the over 5,000 pieces submitted, fewer than 2,200 were selected. And that sounds like a lot, but among the work rejected was that of Edouard Manet's La Déjeuner sous l'herbe, or in a language that I can actually speak, Luncheon on the Grass. Works by Gustave Courbet, Paul Cézanne, Camille Pissarro, Johann Jonkind, Henri Fontaine-Latour, and James Whistler, an American whose name I'm pretty sure I got right, were also among the rejected. What made this especially bad for the artists was the fact that for many, the Salon show was the only opportunity for them to show their work. Napoleon III was sensitive to public opinion, though, and he ordered the exhibition to be organized, and the crowds it drew were in the thousands, every single day. And while that may not sound like a lot by today's standards, you have to remember, this is for art. Many of those attendees, however, were outraged by the Luncheon on the Grass because of its depiction of female nudity. Other scandalous topics, such as Symphony in White No. 1, The White Girl, by James Whistler, which was a portrait of his mistress, was received much more favorably. What made the Salon de Refuses so significant was that it questioned the infallibility of not only the French Academy, but of academic art across all of Europe. It highlighted unofficial exhibitions, legitimizing them, and prevented the academic scene from monopolizing art. It also brought with it, and paved way, for a more avant-garde style of artistic expression, including that of Impressionism. The Salon de Refuses was held 3 more times, however the novelty of the show had really worn off, and nowadays the term is used for any show of art that is rejected by juried shows. Now, you guys can't see this, but I actually wrote out phonetically how to pronounce all these names, and I'm pretty sure I still got all of them wrong. But it was perseverance and determination that really drove me through that. And speaking of perseverance and determination, and great segues, the next topic I want to mention is really a great example of that, as well as the spirit of adventure. The year was 2010, and on this day, Jessica Watson became the youngest person to sail non-stop around the world, solo and unassisted. The Australian-born Jessica Watson was, according to the Australian Museum website, the second of 4 children, and according to her mother, the least likely to take up sailing. She was described as a shy, quiet child who didn't like adventures. For years, the Watsons lived on board a 16-meter cabin cruiser, and it was there that her mother chose Jesse Martin's book about his own circumnavigation aboard his vessel, Lionheart, as a bedtime story. It was this story that planted the seed that led her to attempt a similar feat. She thought to herself, if he's a normal person, and he can do that, what is it I can do? After years of gaining qualifications and crewing on vessels, she sailed from Brisbane to Sydney aboard her pink yacht, Ella's Pink Lady. However, it was during this trip that she collided with a bulk carrier and damaged her mast, later saying, "I'm glad the accident did happen. It made me stronger, and I learned a lot from it." She continued on to Sydney and, after repairs, set out on October 18th, 2009, only 5 months after her 16th birthday. Over the next 210 days, she sailed with dolphins, rolled her boat 4 times in the Atlantic facing 30-foot waves. She blogged, she did homework, she did maintenance for her vessel. When asked what her favorite part of the journey was, she responded, "A few of my favorite memories were watching albatross fly around the boat for hours, seeing huge pods of dolphins, and the time when the water was so still that it reflected the stars." The day I got home was also amazing. When she finally made it home on May 15th, 2010, she was met by the Australian Prime Minister, who said, "You do our nation proud. You are a hero for young Australians and young Australian women." Despite her accomplishments, Watson disagreed, instead saying, "I don't consider myself a hero. I'm an ordinary girl who had a dream. You just have to have a dream and set your mind to it." In 2011, she was awarded Young Australian of the Year, and in 2012, Jessica Watson was awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia for her service to sailing and as a role model for young Australians. The final topic that I want to mention is something that is very divided, even today, and honestly, it surprised me when I found this out. The year was 1897, and on this day, the Scientific-Humanitarian Committee was founded in Berlin by Magnus Hirschfeld and became the first LGBT rights organization. Hirschfeld was an outspoken advocate for sexual minorities and held the belief that the sexualized ideology of the Judeo-Christians was a serious obstacle to the understanding of sexuality and to the reform of laws and practices that regulated it. He believed that there were many types of natural occurring sexual variation found throughout humans, including hermaphroditism, homosexuality, and transvestitism. He is actually credited coining the term transvestite. He was truly ahead of his time in that while others, such as Oscar Wilde, grieved the persecution of the LGBT community, Hirschfeld actually organized and fought against it. The Scientific-Humanitarian Committee had a strategy to promote research and education on all sexual matters, with one of its goals in particular being to debunk homophobic prejudices and to present a rational case to decriminalize homosexuality. And remember, this was all started in 1897. Another organization that fought for homosexual emancipation would not emerge in Britain until the 1960s. When his family advised him to study something more worthwhile, he actually responded, "What are you saying? That cholera brings you more joy than sexuality?" But as you would imagine, it was not an easy road for him. Being Jewish, a gay man, and a sexual liberation activist, this made Hirschfeld a target of right-wing supporters, and he suffered serious injuries and attack. He even faced backlash within the LGBT communities. Being homosexual was illegal, and many had resigned themselves to their perceived, for the time, second-class status. They just didn't like him shaking things up and refused to cooperate for surveys and law reform campaigns. However, it was due to his work that in 1898 the German parliament debated the repeal of paragraph 175, which criminalized gay sex. It was defeated, and paragraph 175 remained, but it was also the first time homosexual equality was put onto the mainstream political agenda. He became known as the Einstein of sex, and after performing one of the world's first gender reassignment operations, set up the Institute for Sexual Science in 1919. This predated Dr. Alfred Kinsey's own sex research by 28 years. According to the article I read, the Institute, in addition to its research, promoted sex education, contraception, marriage guidance counseling, support for gay and transgender people, the treatment of sexually transmitted diseases, gay law reform, and women's rights. However, it was while he was away on tour in the US that Nazi stormtroopers attacked the Institute and destroyed his research archives. You've probably seen newsreel footage of the book burnings the Nazis held, and what you may not know is that Hirschfeld's library is among those burning books. The Nazis publicly named him a Jewish criminal, and he went to France where he died of a stroke in 1935. And I think that's going to do it for us today. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the audio version on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and Google Play. Links in the description. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, please give us a rate and a review. That helps me out and lets me know what kind of direction to keep this going in. And hey, if you liked it, share it with a friend. They might like it too. You can find me on social media and at YouTube at the Apple Cider Club. And as always, I want to thank the Tim Kreitz Band for our musical theme and to thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.